Apple recently released a video going through the walkthrough of the Apple Vision Pro, and honestly, I cried. I cried like I cried when the iPhone first came out and when the iPad first came out, because I know this device is going to be a game changer in the future. Without question, this device is going to change the way in which we interact with one another in 10, 20, 30 years' time. We'll potentially be looking back at the release of this device and going, that was the moment things changed forever. However, when it comes to productivity, I am slightly skeptical, especially with this particular device. So in this video, I wanted to discuss how pro is the Apple Vision Pro. I've split this conversation up into 3 sections. The first is ease of use. Now, for anything to help you become more productive, generally speaking, it needs to be easy to use. You need to be able to reduce the friction that's involved in you interacting with that particular device. A headset, on the other hand, feels a little bit more clunky, particularly one that kind of has to go over your head. There's a strap, depending on your face shape, there's another strap you have to put on over your head. There just feels like there's a little bit too much friction for me to want to put it on in order to get some serious work done. Another thing to consider is how comfortable is it going to be to use, because various reports have come out from people who've had some time with it that say it's either not comfortable or actually not too bad. But anything that you wear for hours and hours on end on your head with 2 4K screens right up against your eyes, probably causing you eye strain, I'm just not sure that this device is going to be the most comfortable in order for you to get your work done. Another thing that's holding me back from getting really excited is the input control. So it looks really intuitive that you can just move your eyes and the scanner will track exactly where your eyes are looking at, and then you used your hands to make gestures in order to sort of select things. But some people have already said that the hand gestures, although they work most of the time, sometimes they miss. And so sometimes you'll need to do the same action multiple times. And I just think like having to have your hands up to do stuff, you know, it kind of causes friction. I know you don't necessarily need to have them like up here, you can have them down here, but just having to have your hands up, I don't know, it just feels less intuitive than having your hands down and typing on a keyboard. Speaking of which, there is a virtual keyboard which they've showcased, and again, there's not a lot of information about this keyboard at this stage. Some people have said they've used it and it feels okay, like you can get used to using it, but it doesn't feel as tactile as a physical keyboard, of course. And again, is that going to speed up your workflow? I know that for me, having something tactile and physical that I'm actually touching makes a massive difference to my efficiency and to my productivity. In fact, I don't think anything's ever going to be a keyboard and a mouse combo. And the final thing I wanted to discuss for ease of use was the weight distribution. Now, some people have said the weight distribution feels okay, and some people have said actually it feels a little bit heavy after prolonged use. Now, that's going to depend on the person, right, and their kind of their body structure and how resistant they are to like a heavy weight on their head. But it's not just the headset. The battery pack, which you need to keep in your pocket, is also over half the weight of the headset. So there's quite a lot going on. And again, all of this sort of adds to the friction of, okay, I want to edit a video. Do I want to edit my video on a laptop, or do I want to edit my video on a headset? And okay, I've used edit video as an example, but you could pretty much use anything as that same example and say, okay, I can pretty much get things done. I have a workflow for my laptop. I have a workflow for my iPad. It works, it's quick, it's efficient. Having to recalibrate the muscle memory of putting on a headset and then using your hands, I think is less intuitive if you're trying to get things done quickly. Although, again, hopefully in the future, things will speed up. What do you reckon though? Let me know in the comments below. The second section is apps. Now, there are very few apps, as you can imagine, being a first generation device, that have been released. Now, there are the native Apple apps, which you've seen in the videos. I'll leave them up here. There aren't very many that are kind of productivity based, I would say. There's Reminders and there's Freeform. Oh, and Keynote, but not many third party apps just yet. And in fact, there's been very, very little out in the media around a lot of these productivity apps and whether they're going to create a dedicated Apple Vision Pro app for the platform. And indeed, apps like Netflix, YouTube, and Spotify, which aren't productivity apps, I know, but they've outright said they're not going to create apps for the Apple Vision Pro, and they've also blocked the ability to use the iPad version of the app on the Apple Vision Pro. Which brings me to my next point around the iPad app. So we should be able to use most of these iPad apps on the Apple Vision Pro, but how well is that actually going to translate? You know, if I'm using Notion and I bring up my iPad version of my Notion, how easy is it going to be for me to interact with Notion with a headset on, with like mountains all around me? Like, it just feels a bit weird. And it sounds weird saying it. I just don't know if this technology is quite there yet in order for us to better understand how we can harness it to use stuff like Notion. Like, it'd be really cool to use Notion and other productivity apps like with my hands. I just don't see it right now. There was an example given in another video, which I'll link in the description below, where the person trying on the headset said that they could interact with their keynote presentation. They could put themselves in a boardroom, albeit an empty boardroom, and practice the keynote presentation, which would be behind them, but they could see previews of it in the top of their screen and just practice giving the presentation in front of an empty boardroom. I could see that being potentially useful in that kind of very niche circumstance. But actually compiling the PowerPoint or the keynote, I'd probably still want to do that at this moment in my laptop or on my iPad. And the third section of this conversation was around focus. Now, if you want to be productive, you have to stay focused, right? But procrastinating is not going to help. And this device seems incredible for 3D immersion, for dinosaurs coming out at you, for watching movies and feeling like you're in the theater and IMAX type experience. All looks really good, but none of that makes you more productive. So again, I'm skeptical that if you're trying to get work done, you have all of these things that you can immerse yourself in. We could potentially be sitting there all day on our own, slobbing around, watching movies and not being productive. A bit like in WALL-E, you know, the humans in WALL-E that are just sitting down, just like in front of their screens all the time. Is that what we're going to turn into? There were a few cool things though. So, you know, being able to meditate seems pretty good and helps with, you know, boosting your ability to stay focused. Actually immersing yourself, if you're in a busy place and you've got constant distractions, immersing yourself to like you just on a mountain and like writing a script, that sounds pretty good. The ability to pop your laptop screen out seems like a good idea. It seems like it would work well. Again, the input gestures might be a bit of a problem, but actually seeing stuff bigger in front of you means you no longer need a monitor. You're no longer confined to whatever sized monitor you have. One thing that does make me laugh though with all this kind of Apple stuff is the ability to like have like loads of screens in front of you and selling that as, hey, look, you know, you can multitask. Like, multitasking is bad for productivity, so I probably wouldn't sell it as, hey, look, you can multitask, because you're constantly distracted and you're not really focusing. But you can do that, I guess, if you really wanted to. You could have two things out in front of you if you're trying to do one task and you need two different screens, although you could also do that on a monitor. So in conclusion, look, don't get me wrong. I think this device is incredible. It's going to be, in the future, something we look back on and say, wow, we remember when this device first came out. A bit like with the iPhone. When that first came out, 2007, we were going, oh wow, look, and you know, now look at iPhones. And I see a similar thing happening with the headsets. I don't see them staying this big and this clunky. We'll probably look back on this headset and go, wow, look how bad that was. But for now, I really can't see this device being a device that you should run out and get because it's going to help you be more productive and get more work done. I do like the potential for it though in helping you with your focus, with immersing you, perhaps sinking you into a deep work state. If you can use it for that, that would be great, rather than using it to like watch YouTube videos all day. I think it's also going to be useful for connecting with humans on a different kind of level, like it's more intimate than a FaceTime or a voice note. And so that part I think can help as well with like increasing your human connection, which again, you can argue makes you more productive. For now though, I think the Apple Vision Pro will slow down your productivity, at least for a few years, until this device becomes more streamlined, app developers start understanding and engaging with it in different ways so that we could build workflows for it that actually make things more efficient for us, rather than seemingly less efficient, at least from the outset without having used the device myself. But do you agree? Let me know in the comments below. Are you ordering one? If you are ordering one, what do you plan on using it for? As ever, like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next one.